This is Sonic, and you're watching JD Frank 20.
Alright, I just got some new information about Sonic Frontiers. And first of all, I want to say shout outs to JaydenXV or 15, if you're going by Roman numerals. I hope I said that name correctly. Apparently, you got the scoop basically from a Twitter user, Infinite Force. Apparently, what happened is a couple days ago, here's this tweet right here. I'm going to screenshot it, and we'll go from there. The end is such a great villain, but has the worst final boss gameplay in a Sonic game. It has a very weak music as well. The same goes to Supreme. I doubt Update 3 will do anything about it. If it does, good luck calling other Sonic games better. And he basically just sent his pitch to Sonic Team. Now we're gonna talk about this in chapters, so we can get a full analysis of we're gonna get a breakdown basically. Now I agree 100% that yes, I got asked this question too a day ago too by one of my subscribers. Because he was just barely in Chaos Island trying to 100% the game, and he wanted to ask my opinion about Supreme and the end. Like, everybody's been saying, like, this boss fight is way too easy, like, what are your thoughts about it? And I gave him the exact same answer, too. First of all, for Supreme, unfortunately, the boss fight is just stationary. I mean, it's just basically the Giganto fight, only they added a couple more obstacles, like the turrets to shoot at you. Depending what difficulty you're playing at, their speed will increase. If you're playing on hard mode, the speed of the turrets do increase, but they're still easy to dodge. And not only that, but by that late in the game, you already have more rings for ring capacity storage, so that's not going to be an issue. When you're in a supersonic boss fight, rings are never going to be an issue unless you go into the fight with a full set of rings. Now, on the other hand, the Supreme fight also, like, it's kind of weak when you think about it. Like, he only uses that cool gun only once or twice, and it can easily be recountered by parrying and just returning back to the arena and just do some massive damage on him. Now, when he activates his pinch mode, yeah, he gets cool wings and all that, but really doesn't utilize them. Like, out of all the boss fights, I would have to say Supreme is by far the weakest iteration, and you could easily tell that these final two boss fights felt a little bit underwhelming. And of course, for the end, let's be honest, that's self-explanatory. Like, I can understand, yes, the end, it's just basically, it's just Galaga. That's the best way I can explain it. Like, really? Like, you fight these awesome titans, you fight Giganto, you fight Wyvern, you fight Knight, you fight three great titans, and then you're expected to get something epic at the end of the day. But no, you just felt kind of underwhelmed. Okay, Phase 1, Supreme will not fly or hover. Same attacks as both Giganto and Supreme Phase 2, plus a special gun attack that Sonic could parry with special animations. That is true. Like, I honestly think those kind of attacks should be done in Phase 1, not Phase 2. Because again, it's very easy to Phase 1 hardly even does anything, and by the time you go for a quick attack on Supreme, it's just there. Like, you could easily just take pot shots at Supreme and get to the second phase with little to no consequences. Alright, now Phase 2, the boss will fly around and hover after it activates its wings, which look cool, but it doesn't do anything. Know this too much. You have the whole year to work on it. He's basically just telling Sonic Team if there's a possibility they could fix this. They do have a whole year, because the third wave at this point might come out in late 2023. That's understandable. And the boss will hover with its wings, and after a period of time, it will fly to another location where you could chase it down and do a special parry and throw it. Now, that would be cool. That would be cool. Again, for Supreme, there's really not much you could do with this design, because again, it's just a giant stationary boss fight, similar to Giganto. There's not much you can really do with these boss fights. This is why I've been saying that Wyvern is the best supersonic boss fight, because there's so much you could do with that fight. It involves strategy, but at the same time, even his attacks are hard to dodge at oftentimes. Now, you could parry the missiles, I understand, but there's times where you can just dodge them and just just get close enough to Wyvern where he goes for his claw attack, and that's your cue to parry and go for the weak spot, and then continue from there. And plus the boss fight, the music just goes perfect with the Wyvern boss fight. So, Knight has its own unique boss fight here and there. Really cool utilization of using the shield and also using that technique to basically weaken Knight. And of course the death animation at the end is so kick-ass. And that's another thing he discusses too. I believe it's the death animation for Supreme. But then again, when you include the story elements, they kind of needed Supreme for the true final boss fight to get that final hit on the end. But again, it just felt like an underwhelming boss fight. And here's another tweet right here. To the air and then spin attack Supreme to the ground and then repeat. Hit Supreme with a spin attack to the ground. After he hits the boss ground, make the boss bounce up before the next attack. And then give a big spin attack to the ground. Now for the final boss. You know, again, you know. These are interesting ideas right here. You know, and again, you know, the more you think about it, the more you realize that Sonic Frontiers kind of felt rushed. Well, at least rushed on the concept, not the gameplay and all that, just the concept ideas. Maybe they wanted to utilize more ideas, but because of time constraints, they wanted to get the game out as quickly as they can. I'm not saying the game is, you know, you may say the game might feel incomplete, but the game runs steady and the full-fledged story is there. But at the end of the day, I don't want people to, you know, to misconstrue what I'm saying is, oh, Frank's saying the game is incomplete or it's rushed. I'm not saying that. It's just like these are nice ideas that would have been implemented into the game. And the good thing is that they could fix it with these patch updates. Okay, Phase 1 for the end, obviously. Same as the current one. Phase 2, 3D Sonic and a small particle is very small. Bring all the Titans to the fight or just Supreme. Obstacles are greeted, shields, and smaller particles and lasers. Parry against the big laser and attack, and the music should be metal music. Absolutely. The final boss theme with the end, I'm not gonna lie, it's good and all, but it doesn't sound like true final boss fight. In fact, the final boss music, the reason why it's so underwhelming, it looks like it's stuck in first gear. When you get to a true final boss fight, you're normally in first gear and then to second gear. Like every single Titan boss fight has two different, you have first gear and second gear. Wyvern is by far my favorite because when you get to that beginning and then after he gets into its pinch mode attack, obviously using his lasers and all that, using his lasers and then firing more missiles, then you get to the second phase and oh my god, it's so kick-ass at the same time. Where the end is kind of like underwhelming, you know, when you hear that theme. So I'm hoping there's a chance they could change the final boss music to make it, you know, to make the music heavy music. You know, again, this final boss fight, it's by far the weakest iteration of any supersonic boss fight in the franchise. I think we could safely say that. Hell, even Merlina was even better than this. Yes, if you want to include the storybook games, yeah, man. Now, Eraser Jin, on the other hand, I don't know about that. I never played that game, so you'll have to tell me if that final boss, like any iteration that's a Sonic or a Supersonic fight or any iteration of that lineup, tell me if it's better than the end, because right now the end is by far one of the weakest boss fights. Unless you're playing it on hard mode, you're not going to get much of a challenge out of it. Alright, and then another, okay. If you read this, you got inspired by it, I want to thank you for spending the time reading this. I believe this will be a heavy improvement of the ending of the game. If there are legal problems of me giving ideas, this idea is free of use and has no legal binding to it. Thank you. And thank you, Infinite Force, for the idea, for suggesting these ideas. They're actually pretty good, actually. I'm not gonna lie. I do love the idea of having all the Titans to the fight. In fact, that was one of the ideas I was thinking. You know, that's what I was thinking too, because when you get to Rhea Island, you see glimpses of cutscenes of what the Ancients had to do to fight off against, well, now we know it's the end, basically. And one of I'm assuming the final cutscene was that, all four of them with their Titans, the Elder Chow had no choice. As a last resort, he just wanted to seal that thing away into cyberspace, while the others pleaded there must be another way, and he said there isn't. So once he sealed away basically himself with the end into cyberspace, the other three were left with a difficult decision, is just take out the damn moon, basically, now that the end is no longer controlling it, which they did using 3 different Titans. So those 3 Titans do serve a purpose. So if you saw those cutscenes, basically, The end was basically just telling Sonic, destroy these Titans, activate all switch panels on Rhea Island just to basically set it free, setting up the chain of events for the true final boss fight. Again, the suspense was great for that. It's just the final boss just kind of felt underwhelming, and a lot of people agree also. Okay, now here's the final tweet right here by Morio Kishimoto himself. He translated the tweet, obviously, from Google Translate, so we don't know how accurate this is. Let's take a look. He says, "Thank you for suggesting great ideas. I have read it all, and I found your opinion valid and inspiring to me. I don't know how much I can achieve in a limited amount of time, but I will do my best to make it something that you will be satisfied with." Now, that alone is great. The fact that Mr. Morio Kishimoto replied to this, that's great. Now, I understand, he's replied, he always checks Twitter to see, to get some feedback. What can they do to make the next game better? But for Frontiers, they got a lot of, they have a lot of DLC they could come out with to improve the game, add more stability to it. Now, you think there's a possibility they could fix all this? Maybe, because right now, the one wave that everyone's concerned with is Wave 3, where you have different gameplay. Are they going to change? Are they going to give you an alternative ending? Probably not. The ending will still go the same as planned, but the final boss, they just want a different mechanic to it. I don't know if that's going to be possible. Like, you're asking them to basically refine or retune the final 2 boss fights. That is possible. Again, I understand, yes, the modding community already technically did that. They made the boss fights extremely harder just by adding patterns. I don't know if they changed, battle strategy. I haven't checked those videos out yet. All I know is that I heard that they made it extremely difficult. But as far as for that, that's great that they're taking ideas. That's the whole purpose of DLC. It's not just you're getting free content here, but here you're gonna change the final boss, and you're gonna change this one, the second to the final boss, make them interesting. And I agree 100% with this tweet. Now, for Sonic Frontiers, to me, the game is fine the way it is right now, but with these new enhancements, if it were to get, it would take the game to the whole next level, make it even better. Again, there's so much Sonic Frontiers could do, and I know one of the questions I've been asked is, do you honestly think Sonic Frontiers is the building foundation for upcoming 3D Sonic games? And I say yes. In fact, if anything, I think Sonic Frontiers is a battleground test for Sonic Adventure 3 when you put 2 and 2 together. The open zone environment, the open zone formula, all the 3D elements, Supersonic being playable at any form you wish, any Supersonic form boss fight for Sonic Adventure 3, if that is going to be an upcoming game, any Supersonic fight would work because that the mechanics work perfectly, whether it's a fight where you're chasing down an enemy in the skies, or it's a stationary boss fight. The mechanics, the controls all work fluidly. The combat is great. Add more playable characters. If you want to add big, fine. You can include fishing. At least you got that right in Frontiers. And for good purposes, it lets you skip a lot of shit. It lets you get a lot of good stuff, actually. Again, I'll make a review of Frontiers at a later date. Again, I have a lot of projects right now. The point of this video is that the possibility of us getting a new different final boss and sub-boss before the end is a possibility. So this is great news right here, and the fact that Kishimoto himself even acknowledged that, well, he likes the ideas, but he'll try his best to do what he can with a short amount of time. Again, the dev teams just busted their ass getting this game out, and right now they need a bit of a break, but I understand, they got to go back out to work, and they got to do some more work. And again, guys, you got to take it easy on the dev team here. They just bust their ass giving you a great game, but at the end of the day, I mean, these ideas are great, but I hope they could capitalize off this. If not, it's understandable, but I like the fact that they're at least acknowledging it. That's better than getting a no reply at all. Let me know what y'all think about this, and I gotta go to work. Have a good day.